I'm not going to settle.
You had a life-changing moment.
You have to walk through this journey on your own.
How did that change go about?
There is something about legacy, because financial services has been around for so long as opposed to tech, that changed my way of thinking. And for that, I'm really grateful for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Careers Demystified, where I bring on guests to talk about how they've navigated career changes. Today's guest is Alexandra Aileru, whose career path is a great example of this, as she pivoted from being a secondary school science teacher in Abu Dhabi to a project manager within the finance sector. Now, she is a career rebranding coach and the founder of Confident Career Switch. She helps individuals and organizations rebrand career identity, align values with work, and stop settling for roles they've outgrown. So I've given a brief introduction about yourself, but I'd love to hear your story in your own words.
Sure. So I have had a few career pivots myself, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about them as a whole. But my main change that caused me to do what I'm doing now was transitioning from education. So I was a teacher.
Yeah.
I worked in the UK. I worked abroad. So in the UAE, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Came back to the UK and was like, I don't want to teach. I don't want to do this.
Okay.
And I tried multiple times to leave teaching and failed miserably. Any inconvenience I had, I would just run back and into supply work because it was easy for me to do.
Yeah.
And my turning point really that helped me to get out and stay out was when I had my son. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I refuse. And I think that there's something, about having a child that just makes you think beyond yourself. And that was it. So in 2020 for me, that was the last time that I ever set foot in a classroom in a teaching capacity.
Wow.
And I never went back. Shortly after having my son, I started my first ever role as PMO. But before that, I did work in an educational company. I came on board as within like a change function in terms of their content, so their online content.
Yeah.
So that was very much on brand for me. However, I was like, there's more.
Yeah.
There's more that I could be doing, but that opened me up to project management as a whole in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that you had a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
And in essence, you wanted a career path that would help facilitate and provide a better life for yourself and your child. So I guess the real change was when you moved from working within a school to a private education company.
Yeah.
How did that change go about from teaching to private education company? Did you just submit your CV? Did you have to change anything to be more suited for the role? Because you worked as a change specialist.
Yeah.
How did that pivot happen?
So I remember sitting down saying to myself, like, what could I do? What
Yeah.
could I do? Where would I be best suited? Looked at my skills and was like, there must be things out there. So what can ex-teachers do?
Yeah.
And this company came up and it was all run by ex-teachers.
Oh,
so it was
okay.
like, okay, this is perfect. And that was my foot in the door. And I believe that that's all we ever need, just a foot in the door. Most people don't ever get their foot in the door because they don't believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Especially for people coming from, more so traditional backgrounds, like the government or education or healthcare.
Yeah.
They're overutilized but underpaid in a lot of those roles, and there can be lots of issues concerning how they see themselves, how they value themselves, because there's so much pressure on them. And it's like the skills that you are developing in these different environments are going to help you soar wherever it is that you go. Trust me, they need you there.
From a resilience perspective.
From a resilience perspective, from a diplomacy perspective.
Okay, diplomacy.
Yes.
Okay.
So in corporate, it's a very interesting space, right? But I truly believe those three sectors that I mentioned, you are naturally diplomatic. You have to be. Otherwise, you will be ruled out of your job very quickly. And so when dealing with stakeholders, especially more senior stakeholders, there is a level of, I'll say, couth that you need to have. and that comes to you naturally. You're not afraid of senior stakeholders because you've dealt with some really difficult people
Yes.
beforehand.
Parents, children, head teachers.
Yes, there's all different kinds of people that you come across. And so your way with people is actually going to be one of the best things that you can leverage, because it's a skill set that's called influencing without power. So you've been able to influence people that are not under your authority. They don't report to you, but because of all of the skills that you've leveraged, you're able to get and convince people to do something that they may not want to do.
Yeah, and I think transferable skills is definitely something that, you know, if teachers are looking to pivot, they need to highlight and be like, you know, teaching is the outcome of the skills that I have, but how could I leverage those transferable skills, like you said, stakeholder management, diplomacy in a different context to have a different outcome. So how did your role change from being a teacher, you know, preparing lessons, talking to children, to now working as a change specialist within the private education sector? What were your outcomes?
So the role still had a very fundamental, like, underlying point, which is, as a teacher, you're a researcher. You're always going to be doing research. That was a lot of my role, making sure that I'm taking various bits of content, putting that together, and where I came in primarily within this kind of content function, but then moved within the change, it was overseeing how content production was delivered within this organization.
When you say content production, are you talking about like Udemy, Coursera, because they're education platforms?
Yeah.
Content production for what exactly?
So yes, you've used great examples, but within the sector for children. So these were, this was the equivalent of that, but for kids globally.
Okay.
So selling to different parts of the world, the Middle East, America, and putting together these different curriculums for them and packaging that out.
Okay, so was it like online stuff or?
Yes.
So what I understand is that there's a private education company, which is like Udemy and Coursera, but for children.
Yeah.
And you were facilitating them in change.
Yes.
Okay, changing in the way in which they produce their content.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So when you contextualize it like that, it makes it. Oh, of course, it makes sense, right? So you understand how to deliver the content, where to deliver the content, and you know what the needs of the children are for the content to be impactful. But it's just in a different context, in a virtual sense. Yeah. And to be honest, I think you were ahead of the game before COVID hit. So I guess, was there a demand for virtual learning even before COVID?
Yes, because there are lots of parents who want extracurricular activities for their children. There are lots of parents who want to also be immersed as a part of their children's learning. And there's loads of people that are homeschooled as well. So there is always going to be a need for online content. And also there are lots of tutors who teach children and want a curriculum to rely on.
How did you find your work-life balance and finances changed from teaching to this private education company?
So not much.
Okay, fair enough. Really?
The working hours were different,
okay.
But you know, the pay wasn't much different, to be fair, and that's when I knew I needed more. Okay,
so you'd say the work kind of changed, work-life balance improved? Was it like a 9 to 5, or was it still like in teaching where the work is continuous and never really ends until, you know, it's the summer holidays?
Yeah, no, it was 9 to 5. So there was the ability to be able to switch off. So that was great.
Without necessarily the concern of, you know, children's well-being after you've seen them and everything like that. So a little less emotional turmoil.
Yes.
As compared to teaching directly, which is interesting.
Yes.
So you leverage that private education company to pivot into a change specialist role. How did you then come up with the idea of moving into a project management role in the private sector, more specifically finance? What was it where you thought, I've got this set of skills and actually it's being used elsewhere? What was that pin drop moment that made you realize there's more to this than where I'm currently at?
So I had a conversation with somebody. I was just talking to them about my life and they said, you know, you would be great in project management. I said, all right, bet. Let me go and research.
Yeah.
I think it's so great to have people around you that see you before you see yourself, but
Yeah.
trusted people,
Yeah.
right? So this person said, I think that you'd be great for project management. So I went and I did, a really cheap, when I say cheap, it was like £10 or something.
Wow.
Just
Gone
to,
at those days.
yeah, like, let me just pay and just see what project management is about. If I like it, well, if I've only invested £10, and I was like, yeah, do you know what? I could do this. And before I went into financial services, I actually worked in like a tech company that dealt with streaming. So that was my first like kind of segue into project management. I started there as a PMO before then moving into financial services.
So you're making these like lateral moves, these small pivots. It's not a drastic change. You went from teaching to working for a private education company that provides teaching virtually. And then someone inspired you to move into project management, but the work you were doing was content anyway. Yeah. And then you moved into a media company as a project manager. And I think I want to highlight that because sometimes people are thinking they have to change everything and they can't necessarily connect the dots or see little leverage points that can allow them to make those sideways steps for the big move. So it was really smart that you were able to do that. How did you come across that opportunity?
Conversations with people that I knew. So your network is valuable.
Yeah.
Your network is going to be able to help you whenever you pivot. And I always say that, before I speak to anybody as a client or just throughout content all the time, who is in your network? Is somebody in your network doing the thing that you want to do? Speak to them first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I was making sure that I was connecting with people that worked within project management. And that's how I came across having not one, but two mentors during that time period. And I have a really great story, actually.
Go for it.
So one of them said a date. She said, by this date, you will be employed.
Okay.
And I kid you not, the day before I got my contract.
Wow.
First ever.
Is this a person of faith?
She is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I call her a prophetess. So yeah, but I held on to that conviction that she had, that she had shared with me. And it's really important. Lots of people are struggling navigating career changes because they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
You were never designed to do everything by yourself. You are only as good as the people that are around you.
Yeah.
So who is in your network?
Who's in your
question number one.
So with the conviction, you still had to move.
Yeah.
And you said the £10 course, but was there anything else you did on top of that?
So I was immersing myself in content, everything to do project management. That was all I ever listened to, online. And I realized that there wasn't as much for career changes at the time. So there were people that worked within project management and were putting the content out. And I was like, I'm going to fill this gap. I'm going to help people who want to get into project management from education.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to pay this forward. So this is the beginning of my online career journey, basically. Sharing, all that I do, and the beginning of my company starting Confident Career Switch.
Interesting. It's almost a full 360 moment. You worked for a private education company that upskills students, and now you're online teaching people how to make, everything all interconnects, and there's always some sort of synergy in everything that we do, even if at the time it doesn't seem connected by any means. One thing I'd be interested in knowing, was it a case of you applied for the job?
Yes.
Okay, so you were doing all of this work, immersing yourself, networking, connecting, living and breathing project management as though you were a project manager, and then you applied for the role.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And how was that experience?
So my first ever interview, I remember being really nervous because I was like, I felt desperate. Like I really wanted to have this role. And I remember speaking to my mentors beforehand, and they were like, you need to believe that you are deserving of being here. And even if you don't get it, it's fine, that it will come. And that's also another thing, that there's loads of pressure that people put on themselves. Like, this has to be the one, and it doesn't. Thankfully, they loved me, which is great. And I was employed. I did have some other interviews. I was offered somewhere else at the time, but I didn't take it because it was too low of a salary at the time. And I always encourage people by saying I was able to move without having to take a pay cut as well.
Great.
I got a pay bump, which is great.
So each pivot, it seems incremental benefits. So first pivot was a 9 to 5 and less emotional, burdens carried. And then the second pivot was 9 to 5 and increased salary.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you live this life now, and then why then did you want to change and pivot into finance?
It was more lucrative.
Yeah.
And I felt my reach was going to be better.
Okay.
And I think for me, I hadn't, in the back of my mind, I wanted to get into insurance. I was like, I was starting financial services and then get into insurance, because everybody that I met within the insurance sector, they smiled when they spoke about their job. They were so happy. I was like, I want that. I want to have that.
Yeah.
I didn't make it into insurance. I think business took me out of that, but that was my plan initially, that I was going to segue into insurance.
Okay, so that inspiration was led through a series of conversations. Was this through the people you network from project management? So was this you, whilst you were still in the media company, you were still connecting with other project managers?
Yes.
And project managers from different industries, and hearing about their stories, and you're like, oh, I like a bit of that, so I'm going to apply.
Yeah.
How do you find it different working in those two different industries as a project manager?
That's a good question. The demands are different.
Okay.
In tech or within streaming, I felt it was less rigid.
Yes.
As opposed to in financial services, it's very regimented, very much by the book. There seems like there's more at stake.
Yes.
And in the tech space, there's more agility. You work more iteratively, which is fun. But I felt like I learned a lot more in a faster period in tech than I did within financial services.
Yeah.
But in different ways. So in terms of project management and moving through a project, within the tech space, that was a lot faster. But in terms of navigating stakeholders and diplomacy and my people skills, that was really honed in the financial services sector.
Okay, expand.
I feel like you deal with, because there's more at stake.
Yeah.
There's more pressure, I believe, anyway, and the way in which you have to navigate that pressure. You have to navigate it with a smile on your face, right?
Yeah.
And you're constantly thinking, okay, how, big picture. There's never any small picture with anything. And there isn't necessarily the freedom to mess up either.
Okay.
So I felt like there was a lot more pressure within financial services, but I don't think it's a bad thing, because for me, I believe that set me up for business because of how regimented it is, because of the conversations that you're having with massive stakeholders across the globe, because there is a reputation to uphold. There is something about legacy, because financial services has been around for so long as opposed to tech, that changed my way of thinking, and for that I'm really grateful for.
Interesting. So I think it goes to show, as you're growing your career, it's really important to potentially have exposure to different industries to really hone in that role or that skill set you have in different contexts, because all I know is cyber and finance. But I know my experience of cyber for an organization that provides a solution would be completely different, because, again, there's more at stake. Their reputation's on the line. I'm no longer a customer of theirs. I'm a service provider. So that's actually really good, an interesting point, going from a media company to a finance company, is the expectations that change as a result, and making you a well-rounded project manager. Are there any other industries you'd like to potentially use your project management skills in?
I believe that the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I am open to moving in spaces, because I think now I see myself a lot different than I did when I first started within project management.
Okay.
Then I thought that they were going to be pouring into me, as opposed to now I see I'm pouring into them.
Oh.
And I know the weight that I carry, the value that I carry.
Yeah.
So it would be based upon which sector requires me as an individual within that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to talk about because that's when the money conversation starts talking. So how has the money conversations changed as you've seen your worth and the value that you provide to the company rather than the company doing you a favor because they've hired you?
Yeah. It was easier to say no.
Okay.
It was easier to say no to things and easier to say, I'm not going to settle.
Yeah.
And that, I think you have to walk through this journey on your own.
Okay.
And once you get there, it's such a phenomenal place to be because you won't compromise on anything because you know the value that you bring. And that's why so many people feel desperate or lost in their career change because they're not quite sold on the value that they've brought. They can't put metrics behind it, whereas I can.
Yeah.
And once you start to think like a business,
Yeah.
that changes how you articulate yourself. In order to get the best salary, you are a business selling yourself to another business. So that's how that changed.
In the context of value, we've talked about stakeholder management and you mentioned metrics, right? What other skills do you need to be a successful project manager so that you can articulate your value? What do you mean by I know my value? Like, what are you assessing that against? And when you're pitching to an organization, they're going to say, okay, what is your value? What would you respond to that?
The key skills that you need in order to be a successful project manager are largely stakeholder management. How you come into a team and how you, I don't want to use the word subdue, but how you come in and almost dominate the space and set the tone for the project. The faster that you can do that, the better results you're going to have. So if you can show that I came into this project and everything was on fire, but within a month, 2 months, 3 months, we were able to make progress, then you can now articulate, well, I'm somebody that comes into an establishment and I bring order in so that results can be produced. That automatically is going to, increase your market rate. So that's one. The other thing.
How do you quantify that?
So you would be talking about all the different outputs and outcomes that were required for the project.
Okay.
So if the project requires you to deliver within a set period of time, okay, I delivered it, or I delivered it ahead of time, or I saved this amount of money in terms of resources. I was able to, manage this project and maybe other projects. So obviously there's project management, there's portfolio management, there's program management. So depending on where you sit, you can begin to have those conversations. But you have to sit down and map out what were all of my outcomes and how did I contribute to that outcome being successful.
Okay. You know what? I'm relating it to your teaching background.
Sure.
It's the same thing as in teaching, right? In order to get respect and to get outcomes from the children, you need to set the tone in order for them to respect you and for them to adhere. So for the teachers who are trying to articulate the transferable skills, setting the tone in from children and adults, they're both transferable skills. And the outcomes, I guess, another relation is, because of the way you set the tone in your school when you came in, the children went from, 80% were getting C's to now 90% getting C's. So I'm just trying to think of ways of relating it back to the teaching stuff where a lot of what you're actually talking about, teachers have been doing, but don't necessarily understand how that translate in the corporate context of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to provide that context as well, because for a lot of teachers, you are dealing with stakeholder management day in, day out. From obviously there's parents, but you don't deal with them necessarily every day unless maybe it's a private school, but you are dealing with your stakeholders in terms of your senior leadership, whoever sits on the board for that school. What outcomes are they looking for that you deliver to all the time? And that could be termly, it could be annually, but you need to match up and show, how am I doing that? So what is it like in terms of the grades? So that's going to be an annual review, right? The grades that you've delivered. But in terms of termly, what are some of the projects you've been able to deliver? What are the improvements in behavior that maybe you've seen, depending on the type of school that you see? Community efforts, if that's something that's really important in your school. resource management? Have I been a benefit to my team in terms of we standardized how we put the resources together? How have I been of value? And I think whenever you go into an organization and you say, I'm here to be of service, you automatically realize that I'm a valuable asset. You just need the language to be able to articulate what it is that you're doing.
Okay, brilliant. So we talk stakeholder management, setting the tone. Anything else?
Sure. So risk management is massive. And as a teacher, you are dealing with risk all day, every day. You have 30 kids, whether you're stuck with them, well, not stuck, right? You're with them throughout the day, or it's different kids that are changing. So I taught science and maths. So we'd have, science experiments, Bunsen burners, all different. That's a risky environment. You're constantly assessing risk, even taking students on a trip. That, again, is a risk assessment. So that translates great into project management in terms of the RAID log. You're going to manage those risks. But even before the RAID log is established, you are looking at the risks, which is essentially what could go wrong. And how do I ensure that what could go wrong doesn't actually go wrong? That's an issue. That means it's now materialized. And teachers are equipped to do this because you don't ever want anything to go wrong, because you realize the implications of if something bad happens to a student. So again, you need to be able to articulate that, but you can only do that if you realize what you're doing.
So there's so many transferable skills, and when we're like kind of spelling it out, it's becoming more apparent that teachers are the best people for project management.
Absolutely.
Like you're well equipped for it. Are there any sort of tools, like do you use Jira, Snow, any technical tools that maybe they need to upskill in as well?
It's so funny that you call it Snow, because I remember when I moved into project management, and somebody was saying Snow, and I was like, what is Snow? And they were like, ServiceNow. So what I would be saying to teachers is this: the most valuable thing that you can do is review as many job descriptions as possible. Right? Many job descriptions, unfortunately, are not written to the best of, to the ability of really articulating what the role is. But that's why you need to review as many. What are they asking for? That's one. If they're all asking for the same thing, you need to have that same thing. Okay. We thankfully have YouTube University, we have Udemy, we have Coursera. There's lots of different things that you can be upskilling yourself on. So I don't believe in telling people everybody must use this. You need to constantly assess the market and see what the demand is, and make sure that you put yourself in that boat. Because the other thing as a career changer that you're going to face is objections. Every single hiring manager that sits across from you will be able to see your potential, hopefully if they're a good one. But you need to stand out in comparison to somebody who's more experienced, who's the safer option. How do you do that? Go through and assess every objection that they could ever chuck at you, and overturn that and weave that into your career story.
Okay, I love that. Are there any sort of community groups or societies that project managers should be a part of? Like in cyber, we have all of these spaces where we can meet other cyber professionals and find out about what's going on in the industry. Is that the same thing for your industry?
Yeah, so there are. So lots of people undertake a certification. So that certification, say for example, you're with APM or BCS or whoever it is, they will have a platform that you can join or a community that you can join. That's a great place for you to start.
APM.
Yeah, so that's one of them. And then they will also have, events. So I would go to those events. I always say to people, you only ever need to go to like one and build your network from there if you're good. Right? And then you always want to make sure you're on the right side of the event. You don't want to be like, oh, I just missed it, I would have loved to have gone. You actually want to be in the know and attend those events. But APM has loads of events that are on all the time, and it's also great for people from various backgrounds as well.
Okay. How has project management changed over the years?
I feel like it's gone from being a bit more manual to more automated. So now in this current space, because of AI, and we're not going to demonize it, I think it's actually a really great thing, provided that you know how to use it. As a project manager, now more than ever, your people skills are the most valuable thing.
Okay.
Right? So if you're not great at people skills, then being a project manager is not for you. And that doesn't mean that you can't sit within project management. You can be a business analyst, you can be work within change, right? But to be a project manager, your people skills are going to need to be at the forefront because people don't change.
Yeah.
Right?
AI might, but people won't.
But
Yeah.
we don't change. So that's that. You're going to need to lean with those skills. And you may not have dealt with this particular AI software or function, but what's something that's similar? So having an awareness of where you've done something similar and selling in that sense.
I think it's important you mentioned that because you know how I asked about the tools, rather than you specifically stating, use Jira or Snow, you did say treat the job descriptions because I guess the tools are going to change, but the very essence of people stakeholder management remains the same, but the tools might change. So that is actually a really good point. And I feel like project management gets confused with other roles like business analyst, product owner, product manager. Could you talk a little bit about those roles that project management gets confused with and what the difference is?
Yeah, sure. So a project manager, essentially your job is to deliver a project from start to finish. It has, you're there to deliver outcomes, right? And then there is a change manager. Now, sometimes they are a dual role. I know that I've sat in a dual function of the two. They shouldn't really be, but budget. So sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And a change manager, as you're delivering a project, people need to be guided through that project.
Oh, yes.
Right? If you can't get people on board, good luck on delivering anything. So the change manager ensures that the people are guided through the process. Right?
Yeah.
We want to take them through. We want to have them on board. And so change management is also a great space to navigate as well. There's business analysis, and I like to call business analysts consultants. You come in and you look at the big picture and you diagnose through workshops, through questionnaires, and you're doing all of this diagnosis work, and then you produce a report or a solution of the best way forward. So you see where the organization is or where the project is or what they're navigating at the moment. That's called the as is. And you want to take them to the to be or the target state.
Yeah.
And the BA is in the middle figuring out how to take them from point A to point B. I think that's a great space. And then you've got product management, which basically in its title or function, sometimes a product manager can be mixed in with a project manager.
Okay.
But products, that's it. You're dealing primarily with a product that's going to be packaged and put out to, a particular type of end user. Whereas projects can be run internally. It doesn't necessarily need to be a product that is produced. Like you have regulatory project managers that ensure that that organization doesn't fall behind in terms of keeping up with certain regulations and that there's no fines.
Yeah.
So I feel like project management has more of a scope, whereas product management is more refined, and there is more of a guarantee that you're going to work iteratively because a product requires feedback in order to make it the best design. But project management may not necessarily require as much feedback from end users to see you all the way through the project.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's really important to define the differences because I think they get used interchangeably. But I guess, again, it depends on the organisation and how they define what each of those disciplines are. But it's good that you gave an overall summary just to clarify. So you've left full-time work and are now a full-time business owner.
Yes.
Why did you make that change?
It wasn't the intention in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was just going to, move. I thought it was naturally time to just move on and go somewhere else. But at the time, in fact, I'll backtrack a little bit. In 2023, I remember praying, saying, God, like, I want a business. Like, I don't think 9 to 5 is for me long term.
Wow, really?
At the time, there was one thing that I was doing in my role that I really loved, and that was mentoring business analysts.
Okay.
I'm very passionate about business analysts, because I think that skill set is so valuable in project management. And for me personally, the best project managers worked as a BA first.
Yeah.
Right? So I would teach the BAs because I said the way that you're learning business analysis in this organization, you won't survive in another organization. Let's do this properly. And I love that. My eyes would literally light up when I would spend time with these people. And I was like, I never lost this skill set in every role that I did. And I was like, I want to coach people to do the thing that they love. And at the time, I was building up a following and a community on social media, just talking about my own journey, career pivoting. And there was a demand for one-to-one work. So that's how Confident Career Switch was started. And then it just got to a point where it was like, this can actually be really impactful. I wanted to create an organization that was going to be impactful, and went all in. And it's been successful for a year.
Yeah.
So I haven't had to go back, but I always said that if it doesn't work out, then
you can always go back.
I can always go back. Right?
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of having had a corporate career before pursuing entrepreneurship. Is I think that's one thing as well that annoys me about the internet, is that you're either or.
No.
But actually, there's so much benefit in having worked in the corporate sector, because you understand the legalities, the diplomacy, the bits and bobs that help make a business. Professionalism is another thing that you can then incorporate in the corporate world, in the business side of things. So it makes a lot of sense, and a lot of famous people have worked in their 9 to 5 and leverage the networks and connections and skills and finances used to fund it, to then pivot into full-time entrepreneurship. How have you found the outcomes to be different serving, the organization that you're working for within a 9 to 5 versus your one-to-one clients?
It's all the same. Somebody comes to you with an issue and they want it solved. The difference is that there is less boundaries put up by a company. So I don't have to worry, because I'm at the forefront of Confident Career Switch. I don't have to worry about certain guidelines. But even still, within my organization, we produce content as well. So I do work business to business as well.
Yeah.
So that's where the previous...
Business to business?
Yes, business to business.
What does that look like?
Business to business looks like, running workshops for organizations within their career space. Maybe they want to upskill people. Maybe they want to hire graduates, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Or even identity work. So identity work is a big thing, and I'm happy
Identity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll segue onto that a little bit. So whenever you decide that you want a change in your life, there is a part of you that has changed.
Okay.
And most people struggle to change because they're still holding on to this old version of themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And the old version of you worked to get you to this point, but it's not going to suffice to get you to where it is that you want to get to. So most people that I speak to, they think, oh, it's my CV. Oh, I'm not doing well in interviews. When actually it's you. You don't believe there's something that's not quite marrying up yet for you to be able to assess, these are my values. These are the skills that I have. And this is the evidence that I have that backs up my skills thus far. And I can plug and play that into another organization by way of transferring.
Okay.
Right? In order for you to successfully do that, you need to say, I am the project manager. I am the business analyst.
Yeah.
I am the change manager. But it's more than the job title. The job title was just a thing.
Yeah.
You were never just the job title. You were the person that enabled you to become that. So anybody who wants to change sometimes feels like, oh, am I a bit of a failure because I'm stepping away from something I did for so long? No, you served in that capacity, in that role, and now you're moving to serve somewhere else in a different capacity. And you're going to gain more skills or develop the skills that you have. You're going to be impactful there. And there's going to be things that impart on you as well. So that's one of the main issues that I see that come up with my clients that I work with.
Interesting, because I remember you said when you had your child, that's when you had the switch.
Yes.
Does that also include identity switch as well?
Yes. So I speak to a lot of mums who are like, okay, I'm on maternity leave. I'm not going back. I'm doing something different.
Yeah.
So there is a change that happens. It could be life, for me, it was motherhood. It could be, maybe you become a spouse, or maybe you want to live in a different country, or maybe you've suffered loss, or maybe you just wake up and realize, for all of my life, I've done everything that everyone else expected me to do, but not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that is such a beautiful, pivotal moment in your life
Yeah.
that one shouldn't run away from but lean into.
So I guess for you, it's not just necessarily helping them change careers to make more money and stuff. It's for them to recognize themselves and their self-worth.
Yes.
So it'd be interesting to know, what are some of the things that hold people back from making that career change? We've talked about identity. Is there anything else that you find that you're like, oh, this is a common thing amongst people who want to change careers?
So fear. Whatever that fear is, fear that I'm not going to make as much money,
Yeah.
fear that I'll be seen as a failure, fear of what other people will think of me, fear of the people that you're leaving behind, especially for teachers or, you know, nurses, people that work in those sectors. It's like, I'm going to be leaving those kids behind. How could I do that? And, you know, a fear of losing the life that you have at the moment.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, you know, there is so much more to be gained, and you're going to continue to add in your impact. So
Yeah.
there's a term going around about the great career, like millennial career crash or something.
Yeah.
And it's not really a millennial career crash. It's an identity shift and change that's happening in your life. And that's quite common to happen in your 30s.
Okay. So it seems like identity and imposter syndrome are probably some of the biggest barriers that you find stops people from making a career change. Is there anything else, like more technical, like CV interviews and stuff, that you're like, oh no, like this is, if you change that, it would change the game completely for you?
I think once you change identity, then everything else is easy. So so most people think when they're coming in and we have a session, I'm just going to, and sometimes it is, sometimes it is just change this on your CV and off on your way. Most people I work with, especially career changers, it isn't that. You are still stuck in thinking that your job title defines who you are. You are who you are regardless of what you do. So once we overcome that hurdle, number 2 is, do you believe that you're going to see yourself all the way through, even if you keep getting rejections and it feels hard? And then number 3 is, do I believe that I'm deserving of this? Right? And I'm not going to sabotage this along the way. So it once you overcome those things, I'm teaching you to see your career differently. It's no longer, oh, when I need something, that's when I'm going to update my CV and my LinkedIn. It's, I'm being proactive in my career, moving forward. Constantly. That's how you never get left behind.
Okay. And this is more for one-to-ones, right? In the corporate context, because we're not encouraging them to leave the company. How does that translate?
That translates, again, so, you know, it's one-to-one, but it's the same conversation is being said within the corporate context of going for promotions or just moving laterally within that organization. Because it's beneficial for an organization to have what I like to call like a hybrid person who sees big picture in the organization. You know a little bit about legal, you know a little bit about, HR and about audit. You know, it's great if you know about audit, right? So you are seeing how I contribute to this organization. And even though I don't have a traditional background, there's lots of things that I bring that would be beneficial. I bring a fresh set of eyes to this department. So that's how that works there.
I think it sits well in the conversation of future of work and future of careers, whereby to improve retention of talent and whereby there's hiring freezes and stuff, having a portfolio career within the organisation. And I guess there's 2 angles really, encouraging the talent to see having a diversified career within the organisation in terms of like, you're just, you know, moving one set of skills to another. And I got that because when I worked in cyber at my old company, we had people from loads of different departments and they all helped us in cybersecurity in some context. So someone who worked in HR knows sort of like everyone in the company. Someone who worked in finance understands the business implications of like, you know, the cybersecurity products that we're implementing. And that's a conversation that a lot of people don't really have or don't necessarily tap into, and they're missing out. And that's why what you're doing is actually really important for the individual, but for the business, retention of staff, movement of information across the organization, and, you know, better staff outcome and satisfaction.
Absolutely. And that's how I packaged my business to business services. Like it's in your best interest
Yeah.
to keep the talent that you have.
Mhm.
Why not? You've invested so much in them already.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And with the future of work changing so much, because a job role that exists today, there's no guarantee it's still going to be here in 3 years' time, right? You want at the end of their 2-3 year tenure that you can say, okay, you've served your time in this function. Now let's move you somewhere else. That would be great, right?
Yeah.
To bring people in and see them all the way through. You know, in one of the companies I worked at beforehand, the CEO actually started working in the bank as a bank teller.
Yeah.
And worked his way up. So there are some organizations that are good at doing that. Others need to
Be prompted.
They have to. Now, this it's a must.
Yeah. Future of work and future of careers, and I guess it's redefining what career success looks like. I think traditionally it was climbing up the corporate ladder, but this whole idea of at the same grade, I can move laterally, so I can go from finance to tech and tech to cyber to HR, and no longer define my career success as climbing up a ladder, but being able to utilize my skills in different ways and different outcomes that still benefit the business.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think it's a very important challenge you're solving.